And a pleasant good afternoon to you from the KXAN Live studios. I'm Billy Gates, and this is the Horns Report. Here we're talking about UT athletics, and it's a pretty exciting time for the Longhorns right now as March Madness is here, and both the men's and women's teams have qualified. And to talk about these selections is, of course, KXAN Sports Director Roger Wallace. And Roger, we'll hear from both coaches here in a second, but let's just kind of go over what the men have to do. Their kind of unique position where they don't quite know who they're going to play yet.
Yeah, I remember before the first four, Billy, this was like these next 3 days were just agonizing. We got the brackets out, everybody's all fired up, then you got to wait till Thursday. Well, now you only have today without basketball because of that first four, and it's the first time it's affected Texas because they're going to watch tomorrow night in Charlotte, Colorado State and Virginia. Pretty contrasting styles, too. In the winter, we'll have to turn around, leave Dayton, go to Charlotte, practice on Wednesday, and play Texas on Thursday. So it is interesting, and I guess there's two schools of thought. You tell me what you think, but, one school is they've got a game under their belt, so they're rolling. They got a little momentum. Flip side is they got a game under their belt, then they travel, and then they turn around and do it again. An emotional win to advance. So you wonder what kind of toll that takes. So I guess whichever side of it, you can say Texas has an advantage or a disadvantage. They are the 7. It's a 7-10. So regardless if the team played in the play-in or not, it's not a great advantage. But it'll be interesting to see because we've seen this Texas team. They can play really well, and then they can really struggle. So I don't think a lot of people have a great feel for what to expect on Thursday evening.
Yeah, and technically these first 4 games aren't part of the tournament, even though they are. It's kind of a weird deal that the NCAA started doing to get more teams into the tournament. So whoever wins this game between Virginia and Colorado State is technically the 10 seed in the Midwest region with Texas. And then, yes, they'll go off Thursday, 5:50 Central Time there in Charlotte. That game is on TNT, I believe. And actually, I've got like a full screen here. Yeah, here we go. Hey. Yes, 5:50 Central Time Thursday for the men. And then the women, who we'll get to later, they're going to play at 2. They're going to play in Austin, and we'll get to them in a second. But head back to the men's side. Rodney Terry talked with the media last night about the selection and kind of the process that they're going to go through, not knowing really exactly who they're playing on Thursday.
You know what? You start trying to lean on some of that, Josh, to be honest with you. And, I've been blessed to be a part of, March Madness. This is my 16th time going to the tournament, as a coach. So other guys on my staff, Frank Hate's been 14, Steve McLean's been 6, Augie's been 19 times. I know all this because we looked it all up. And I told all our guys, guys, we've been here. We understand what this time of year is about. And, I think the most pivotal thing in terms of this time of year is you have to have a connected team and a team that's really hungry and really want more this time of year. I said to our guys, it's not always the best team that wins this time of year. It's the team that shows up for 40 minutes and they play their best on a neutral court for 40 minutes.
Basically, Rodney's main point was that the coaching staff has been there before when he's rattling off all the years of experience of him and his assistants in the NCAA tournament. That is quite the laundry list of years in an NCAA tournament for a staff.
Yeah, and a lot of his laundry list is thanks to the guy that he might run into. Right. If they're fortunate enough to win, that would be Rick Barnes. So that's obviously, every year the tournament, handful of those, if this happens, if that happens. Last year it was with Texas and Texas A&M meeting the second round. Here it's the potential Rick Barnes, the mentor and the pupil with Rodney Terry, but they'll have their hands full. This Virginia team's confounding, Billy, because, it wasn't long ago when Chris Beard and Tech lost to them in the national championship game, but they play that great smothering defense, but they're offensively challenged and some of their scores have been just hideous. From a aesthetic point of view, but also kind of a tough team to get ready for. Even though they get a couple of days, they're getting ready for 2 teams. So we'll see. Colorado State gets up and down the floor. Nico Medved is a up-and-coming coach. They were ranked in the top 25 a lot of the season, so should be an interesting one in Dayton tomorrow night with that one.
Yeah, that's around like a 8:30, 8:40 Central Time starts on True TV. I believe that game is on. So Longhorns fans, if you want to catch who Texas is going to play in the first round, find True TV on your television, whatever channel it is. I'm not even sure what it is anymore. All of mine are in alphabetical order, and so I would tell you a number, but I don't know a number.
It's usually around TNT and TBS for that reason. And then it's funny, all the hotels around the country, they seem to find True TV tournament time to put on their channel selection, usually not the other 49 weeks of the season.
Seriously. All right, so moving over to the women's side, exciting time for the women's team. They get a number 1 seed in the tournament. A little bit of a surprise, I would say, but nonetheless, they certainly deserve it as far as head coach Vic Schaefer is concerned. Before we get to talking about them, let's hear from Vic what he said last night after they found out that they were a number 1 seed.
Well, I just think it's a tremendous accomplishment. This team is deserving, as I've said all along. There's only one other Power 5 team in the country with 30 wins, and that's South Carolina. I think we played the right schedule in non-conference, and I think we're, like they said on the broadcast tonight, we're hot. We've won 12 of our last 13, and again, I'm really proud of this team. They deserve it. To me, they've earned it, and but now we got to go live it, and that's the message that I'll have for them is we've got to go live it now. And when you're the one, now everybody's a whole lot more interested and a whole lot more focused when they play you. So, but we have felt that all year long.
So Vic's is just saying, we're the number 1 team in our region, but now we got to go live up to it.
Yeah, and if they're not the number 1, they're the number 2, and it's a difference of a jersey color if they get to the Elite 8 against the number 2, which in this case would be Stanford, and that's the team that knocked them out of a trip to the Final Four 2 years ago. Great storylines in that one with the Tara Vanderveer comments about we don't want it to turn into a football game a couple of years ago out in Spokane, and Vic and his staff didn't take too kindly to that. But yeah, you got to get through this weekend here at home and let the euphoria wear off of getting that number 1 seed. It's interesting, Billy. You think about you get swept in the regular season by a team that wins the regular season title, and that team's not even a top 16 or a host. In Oklahoma, and Texas sitting there at a number 1 seed. But again, the body of work, that win over UConn was obviously huge because
absolutely,
the non-conference was basically UConn and at Arizona, who's in the women's first 4. And after that, I mean, they just rolled in the non-conference. So that, along with what they did in the Big 12 tournament, I'm sure that played a role in vaulting them.
Absolutely has to, because that's why USC got the number 1 seed from the Pac-12. They beat Stanford in their title game. The committee gives USC the number 1, and then the other number 1 was up. It was between Texas and Stanford, and the committee had to have seen the Big 12 tournament title as kind of like that sort of tiebreaker.
Yep, and so you assume they get by Drexel
I hope so.
out of Philly, Colonial Athletic Association. Then it's Florida State and Alabama, and Alabama's coached by Christy Curry, used to be the head coach at Texas Tech. They've got some good wins. They've got some bad losses. Did beat Tennessee, but again, that's one of those teams that not going to be phased after going through the SEC schedule. If in fact they beat Florida State, it's just a matter, are they good enough? And what they may not have seen is what most teams fall into a trap of not seeing, and that's someone like Madison Booker. It'll be interesting how she reacts to the postseason. It'll be comfortable because she's at home this weekend, but kind of next level for her too. Doesn't seem to be phased by much.
No, not at all. See, she's not a freshman anymore. Let's just put it that way. She's there's a reason she was a Big 12 Player of the Year. She'll put it on when the lights are big for sure.
One thing I want to say, Billy, and anybody can go online and look at Texas's reaction when they got that number 1 seed. But to me, what jumps out, obviously, Deanna Gaston dancing was the most memorable. But
tremendous.
Rory Harmon's reaction. This is somebody that was a preseason Big 12 Player of the Year, potential All-American, goes down. Texas does what they have done, and it's all, the whole storyline is what we did without Rory. Now, that's got to hurt a little bit, as good as she's been a teammate. But her reaction was right there in line with the rest of the team. She was so fired up.
Oh, yeah.
That says a lot about her. She could
Yeah.
have gone through the motions of being excited. She's only human, but you could see it with her as well, and that's really impressive to me, because everybody's a team player, but everybody cares about
Right.
number one
Right.
as well. And so that kind of jumped out at me watching that video last night.
And once she gets back in the fold, coming off that torn ACL, this Texas team might be pretty scary with Harmon and Booker both on the floor at the same time. You get Booker back to her natural position as a 2.
Maybe a 1.5.
Playing on the wing, right? Yeah. And then you get Rory running the show at the point, who was having an absolute All-American Player of the Year type season before she went down.
Yeah, go back and watch the UConn game
Yeah.
if you forgot about Rory Harmon. She took that one over too.
The way she started the season was just outstanding, and it was such a shame when she got hurt. So head back to the schedule here. 2 p.m. Central Time Friday at the Moody Center against number 16 Drexel. If you can't make it out to the Moody Center, that game's on ESPNU. And then I don't have it on here, but Florida State and Alabama will play after that game.
And then the winners play Saturday, but they won't announce the game time until the end of the day on.
They'll play Sunday,
on
right?
Sunday. They won't and until the end of the day on Friday when ESPN shuffles the deck. Same with the men. If they win, maybe after the Tennessee game, they'll announce when that game is on Saturday in Charlotte. That's why we only have game times for the opening round.
Yep, gotta wait on the broadcast partners to set those times.
Hey, that Texas men's game on that call will be the pride of Georgetown, Brian Anderson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he's working the Texas regional there in Charlotte.
One more quick little thing about Drexel and the women's tournament before we go. I was looking at their schedule about, half an hour ago because I prepped for this show. And they won their first 3 conference tournament games by a combined 5 points. And then they beat Stony Brook, I believe, by 8 in the finals. So, I mean, if you're Drexel, you've been walking that tightrope for, the past week and a half, and then you get granted the 16 seed and come up against one of the hottest teams in the country who've won 12 out of their last 13 games.
Yeah, I was surprised that Texas they got a team like that's struggling, but you're not going to play in. So Texas clearly is the 3rd or 4th number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But that tells you that they were a one big league. So good for them for getting the job done and getting into the tournament. But it'll be interesting to see how long before that thing gets out of hand. And I don't think we're going out on a limb and say as long as Texas takes care of things and no injuries, no big foul trouble, then see them on Sunday.
That should be the case, and if it's not, then there's a much larger problem.
Wild afternoon in Moody. If it's not, that's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Horns Report. Thank you so much for watching. For Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates, and we'll talk to you again very soon.